Hi, good day, everyone. Thank you so much for taking the time to join our webinar today. Just before we kick off, can I kindly request that I get a few either reactions or comments in the chat section, just to confirm you guys can actually hear me? Perfect. Thank you guys so much. Glad to see everyone's awake. Awesome. Thank you guys for joining our webinar today. My name is Alex. I'm Leader's National Training Manager and Ubiquiti Pre-Sales Solution Specialist. Today we're going to be talking about Ubiquiti, a lot of new exciting stuff to talk about. So again, thank you for joining. Along with me, I do actually have the team from Ubiquiti sitting around where monitoring my progress, and they will also be checking your questions. So please feel free to ask questions throughout the course of this webinar. Of course, there's a massive team backing me up here, so they would be happy to assist. We will be answering all the questions at the end of the webinar through our Q&A session, and we will be doing that via text, so on the chat, and then we'll be doing it in the Q&A session. I'll be answering it directly from there if they haven't answered it on text already. So with that, we can delve straight into it. So I'm going to just quickly confirm that everything's moving. Perfect. There we go. Okay, so let's start talking about how Ubiquiti basically fits into businesses today, how the full UniFi stack fits together, and pretty much how the different components that have traditionally been disjointed in IT can be unified through a single brand. Ubiquiti is on this big journey to bring all the tech verticals under one roof. It's kind of unifying the different industry, and obviously, as the name would imply, that's exactly what Ubiquiti is doing. So UniFi is a perfect name for that. And the starting point for most businesses with this would be their gateways or their security devices, typically the device that goes to the edge. It's the device connecting to the internet. So depending on where your customer's at in their IT journey, they can either have something in place already, they can be far along this journey, have tons of equipment in place, or they can be brand new. So the rest of the IT equipment that typically goes along with this is typically focused on what is at this core. With Ubiquiti, the cloud gateway is the primary device that is at this core. It offers both the security and the cloud gateway capabilities that allow the devices to be managed as well as protected. So many IT vendors will offer something similar where they offer switching, access points, etc. And then they might branch out into some of the other verticals from time to time. So many people or many brands do this, but as you guys will probably attest, a lot of the times those branches out often lack motivation, and you sometimes see that long-term support for these different verticals might struggle. So with Ubiquiti, it's quite unique in that they have been doing most of these verticals for a long time, especially if you take a look at stuff like surveillance. It's been around for a long time, and they are 100% committed to it. And what's unique about Ubiquiti on this as well is that they do it and they do it well. There's a long-term commitment to make sure that these products get updates and stay relevant and continue to innovate. So the big thing here as well is that all of the different segments that you see on screen are manageable through a single pane of glass. So I know everyone's quite tired of that terminology, but that's really true for Ubiquiti. Normally, these different segments would require multiple vendors or even multiple different installers to handle. You might often get someone to do the network side and a completely different installer or reseller to handle the surveillance side. With Ubiquiti, because of the easy nature of it, it means that we don't necessarily need to have a specialist team to deploy, for example, surveillance. So it really all starts at the cloud gateway. If you have one of these Ubiquiti cloud gateways in place already, it's super easy for you to meet your customer needs with other Ubiquiti products and expand it out from there. So we're going to work through these individually, but just starting off very quickly, we'll do a quick overview. So obviously the gateways and security have been around for a while. There's a big focus from Ubiquiti to expand on the capabilities of these devices and make sure that this is at the core of what a business needs. Everyone knows and loves Ubiquiti for their switching and Wi-Fi. We're going to expand on that in a moment and talk about what's new. Ubiquiti does surveillance as well, and extremely well, especially with the new AI enhancements. Relatively new to Ubiquiti, but been around for a few years at this stage, the access control stuff as well. Business VoIP, uh, which is now available in Australia as well. They've recently entered the NAS segment as well, or network storage. They do Pro AV solutions and even digital signage and EV charging as well. So again, we're going to get to these different segments shortly, and we'll talk about the advantages of each of those. So let's first talk about the traditional pain points of IT. So how Ubiquiti eliminates these pain points is stuff like licensing is typically one of those dirty words in the industry. It's a double-edged sword. It can be a good thing and it can be a bad thing. Licensing on Ubiquiti is basically there are none. It's license-free. The core of Ubiquiti's success is in the fact that they are license-free, and they continue to be license-free going forward. So Ubiquiti wants to provide quality hardware, and that remains their focus. Only place that this is going to change is perhaps on the security side of things. You guys would have recently seen the introduction of CyberSecure. I already see comments in the chat section asking about that as well. So CyberSecure is an enhanced security subscription that you can add on to your UniFi controllers or your UniFi Cloud Gateway. And that essentially gives you additional security benefits. So zero-day threat protection, enhanced security capabilities, etc. And because of the ongoing nature of that license, it means that there is going to be an ongoing charge for that as well. But it's completely optional. You don't have to subscribe to that. Ubiquiti is protecting tens of thousands of sites in Australia without that license add-on, and it's secured. We never get any feedback about any breaches. So that's the only place where Ubiquiti's introducing licenses, but other than that, they continue to be committed to being license-free. So the other next step to this as well is the actionability. So especially in the last few months and weeks, we've seen massive improvements from Ubiquiti in terms of how stuff is reported on their dashboards and how IT admins can quickly respond to incidents. So there's huge, especially if you consider over the last 4 years, 5 years, there's been huge improvements on this front in general. Over the last few weeks, particularly, there's been a couple of releases that have really shocked me with how powerful it's becoming, and super intuitive management abilities to quickly react to stuff that's happening in your customer environment. Then the ease of use. So many partners come from an electrical background or from the surveillance industry, and most of them are kind of familiar with their specific industry, but don't really want to get into the IT side. We get a lot of them in our training, and I can honestly say that from about half a day's worth of training, most of those people leave here very confident and able to deploy the equipment. It speaks to the ease of use. The equipment is extremely advanced and easy to use at the same time. And speaking about the advanced side of it, so the advanced features, just because it's easy to use does not mean it lacks features. Ubiquiti keeps expanding on this. They keep adding stuff into the devices, stuff like zone-based firewall controls, etc., which is relatively new. And they keep adding on functionality. OSPF, BGP recently added NAT capabilities, etc. So for the guys that are more tech savvy, the equipment's definitely capable of doing that as well. And then the big one here, and this is a specific call out, is in terms of scalability. We often get the misconception that Ubiquiti's meant for SMB only, or it's a prosumer brand, etc. That's really no longer true. I think the ease of use of the brand kind of lends itself to a lot of prosumers buying the equipment, but really Ubiquiti is designed for business, and it's capable of scaling at business levels as well. So there's sites out there that are managing tens of thousands of client devices across thousands and thousands of cloud gateways. It can scale pretty much infinitely. So that's really something that's a big consideration with Ubiquiti, and they are no longer considered to be just a prosumer brand, which is a big misconception. So moving forward, Ubiquiti's value and how Ubiquiti really stacks up, and where the core value behind Ubiquiti is in terms of stuff like their hardware. So Ubiquiti's hardware is broadly used. They are obviously one of the large suppliers on the hardware side of things. It's broadly used and loved in the industry, pretty much all over. People love the ultra long lifespan and the quality of the products in general. The big one here as well is the license-free cloud management. So this is something that's often overlooked. It's a huge value to you and it's a cost saving to your customers. Competitors often charge huge fees to enable this, so you can remotely manage customer sites and your IT people can actually reach those customer sites quickly. With Ubiquiti, that's license free. There's no charge for that. And then innovative software. So I said before that the licensing thing is a double-edged sword. We often get objections due to the lack of licenses. People ask about the long-term support for features and devices. Because they're not paying a license fee, how do we guarantee that the features keep getting updated? So we have very easy proof to show that Ubiquiti is very committed to that. Licenses are not required to keep innovating on software. If you just go to the Ubiquiti community pages, the releases pages, you'll see thousands of examples of that. If you purchased a UDM 4 years ago, you're still getting all the latest features and benefits, all the new stuff that Ubiquiti has added on. And that wasn't probably even initially part of the discussion that you had with the customer at that time, but it keeps innovating, keeps adding on additional capabilities. So we've briefly talked about the site manager. Just as a quick overview here, there's a lot of depth to it, but I'm going to try to skip through it pretty quickly. So as I said, license-free central management of all your gateways and devices. It really is infinite global scale capable. You can manage thousands of sites. We have a bunch of resellers in Australia that are also managing hundreds or thousands of sites at this stage. And the site manager is intuitive enough to do just that. So some of the features, for example, that are capable on this or present on the platform is stuff like creating site groups. So if you have a bunch of branches for the same customer, easy admin management, so you can add administrators to manage your specific groups or sites. You can do firmware updates in bulk from this platform. Easy ISP performance analysis or performance monitoring. You can even do stuff like site-to-site VPNs at the click of a button directly from this interface as well. The big thing here is it does provide you granular control over who has access to what, which is a big component that is obviously very important to IT. So we have to understand how this all pieces together. We see the cloud management side of things, but that can oftentimes be something that's also a little bit concerning. So Ubiquiti terms it as a hybrid cloud architecture, and it's important to understand here what's actually in the cloud. So many customers have data privacy concerns, and customers don't want their stuff to necessarily be reachable through the cloud. That's perfectly fine. The customer doesn't have to have their stuff reachable through the cloud. You can make it 100% local only if you want to. None of their data actually gets stored onto the site manager, with the exception of cloud backups if you choose it. By default, all the information gets stored onto the cloud gateway. So that UniFi console that you see on the left-hand side, that's where the data gets stored. This keeps the logs, it keeps all the user information, etc. And it doesn't necessarily get pushed through to the cloud unless you specifically want it to. Ubiquiti does not store data here. So data is kept on the UniFi console, and the only exception is backups if you choose it. So what's shown in the site manager here is the cloud console, so the different UniFi Dream machines, UniFi Dream walls, etc. All of these are reachable via the cloud. You can also list your self-hosted instances, so where you're running the software on your own server. You can list your Ubiquiti hosted instances on here as well, if you fire up a Ubiquiti hosted controller or cloud gateway. Cloud keys, your NASs, your NVRs, etc. will also show up through this. The best experience is definitely if you're going for a full stack device. And this image on the left-hand side is a perfect example of that, where you have your UniFi console that is managing and connecting the access points, the talk devices, the cameras, etc. That's the best starting point to go into your customer, and you can expand out on the solution from there. So let's talk about the gateways and security. So there's a broad range of devices here. We don't have time to go through all of the hardware, but there's a device for every type of business, anything from small SMBs getting started all the way up to enterprise. So for example, the Express on the Express 7, which was launched a few days ago, or even the new UDR7, everything built into one device, meant for SMBs getting started, all the way up to something like the Enterprise Fortress Gateway, which is extremely powerful, features stuff like redundant power supplies, device level redundancy, etc. Massive scale, thousands of client devices, multi-branch ready with OSPF and BGP and stuff like that. And Ubiquiti has everything in between that as well. The focus here really is on full stack, providing a gateway that is capable of doing everything in one device. The advantage is that you have central management and seamless integration for all the different components. Even in the last few days, we've seen a range of new devices with 10 gigabit WAN support, which is massive. It's a big improvement, and globally we're seeing a shift on the WAN side of things for more throughput. On the switching side, it's well-known, widely trusted switches. You guys will probably have bought a couple of them yourself as well. Ubiquiti's focus on this and the segment continues to be on more throughput, more redundancy, and more PoE. Let's quickly analyze why. So throughput, we're seeing a big shift because of Wi-Fi 7. We need more throughput. 2.5 gigabit per second is kind of becoming the minimum. Redundancy, this is something that a lot of you have requested. Switches with MC lag, switch level redundancy, redundant power supplies, and even some switches with hot swap fans are being introduced now as well. PoE, so obviously more and more stuff's getting powered by a PoE. I'm waiting for the PoE powered kettle to be launched soon. Just joking. But basically PoE++ is here. We have 90 watts of PoE capabilities already, and it's available on some of the Ubiquiti switches. Of course, the massive focus here for Ubiquiti is on enterprise as well. A big draw card is their Etherlighting devices. So Etherlighting, it sounds kind of like something that's a nice to have until you need it. I've had a couple of instances now where techs are out on site and they need to quickly show what's connected to which switch port. And this is something that's a big focus for Ubiquiti. You can very easily do that with Etherlighting. And then we've also seen the new 2.5 gigabits per second flex switches, etc. as well. On the Wi-Fi side, Ubiquiti's always been a leader on Wi-Fi. Massive focus on Wi-Fi 7. It really is a generational leap forward. Ethernet's kind of the bottleneck here. It's much faster. And Ubiquiti is also focusing on enterprise level devices here. Massive client counts and speed capabilities, even redundant LAN capabilities as well. I'm going to show you these devices in a moment. Anything from SMBs to entire stadiums that require Wi-Fi, thousands of client devices, completely possible. Many different flavors to suit your needs, and there's a huge amount of new features in the software to also help you analyze how your client device is performing and report on that as well. I'll make a quick special mention here on the device bridges. Please do have a look at them on the TechSpecs website. I'm going to link that at the end. It is extremely impressive. I know everyone always requests the ability to link a shed, and that's exactly what Ubiquiti does with these device bridges. So really worthwhile. In terms of the price, that's a big consideration for most customers as well, considering whether to go Wi-Fi 6 or Wi-Fi 7. The pricing on the Wi-Fi 7 equipment is very comparable to Wi-Fi 6, and in general, it would be worthwhile to go for Wi-Fi 7 instead. Moving on to the Protect side. So Protect's obviously the surveillance offering. So loads of new devices here to fit into different use cases. The big ones is the new enhanced AI capabilities, and the big one that everyone's been asking for is third-party camera support via OnViv. So I have to commend Ubiquiti here on their AI firstly. So it's extremely matured and well designed. It's probably some of the best AI that I've seen on any type of camera. It's super powerful. It's focused on what businesses really need and not fringe use cases like some specific type of AI to do some weird scenario. It's what businesses use on a day-to-day that Ubiquiti have introduced. With third-party support, let's be honest, many of your customers have stuff like Hikvision and Dower cameras in place already, and many of them are looking to move away to other brands. So with Ubiquiti, normally this would have been a problem, but we now have such an easy conversation because the cloud gateway is already in place. So for most of your customers, or you can introduce an entire new NVR if you want to, and you can tell the customer, hey, we'll just start gradually moving your cameras over from the cameras you have in place to Ubiquiti cameras. We can take your cameras right now and connect it up to a Ubiquiti NVR if you wish, and we can use your Ubiquiti Cloud Gateway to be that NVR. So Ubiquiti is also introducing new NVRs for scale, so now massively scalable, up to 210 HD cameras on a single NVR, NVR stacking, and even some NVRs that can be managed through Vantage Point to combine the views from multiple cameras into a single pane of glass as well. On the access control side of things, so one of the fastest growing industries globally, there's loads of legacy stuff or legacy deployments out there. I invite you guys to go for a walk around the block and notice all the old readers that you see attached to the building. Ubiquiti is on its third generation of access control. Again, they have very much matured the technology here. All of it is IP based. It interfaces with legacy devices and it works extremely well with integrating to the stuff that's already in place, the mag locks, the strike locks, etc. All of that stuff can be brought across. You can leave it in place and just use Ubiquiti for the control behind it. So there's a broad range of unlock methods for using access control as well, including stuff like facial recognition, Apple Wallet Pass. That's a new one that's just been added in the G3 readers. Apple Wallet Passes, of course, NFC, fobs for using NFC to access the building, NFC cards, PIN codes, and you can even do stuff like one-click mobile unlock as well. Also, you have directory options for multi-tenanted buildings. So if you want to press a button to speak to a specific tenant, you can do that and view options in each one of those premises. You even get gate controls for traditional boom gates as well. The real power here is that it's all integrated and everything connects to each other. So Protect talks to Talk. Talk talks to Access. All the different components are capable of working together. An example of this would be something like a car driving up to the boom gate. The Protect camera does license plate recognition. It opens the boom gate. You drive into the area, walk up to the building. Let's say you've forgotten your PIN, and you quickly swipe up on the reader on the outside of the building. It phones through to the receptionist's talk phone, and that person can decide to let you in or not. All integrated, all tied back to each other. I'll do a special mention here as well. Ubiquiti's visitor management is exceptional. The ability to quickly send a QR code and have a door be unlocked for that user based on a time schedule that you set is very unique. Speaking about Talk, so Talk is Ubiquiti's voice over IP platform. In Australia, it is integrated with Breeze Connect as the third-party SIP provider. Again, I have to commend Ubiquiti here on their speed of use. So I've worked with a lot of traditional PABX platforms, and one thing that's always a little bit cumbersome is the time to deployment. With Ubiquiti, we have a little video showing how we deploy it in under a minute. So we can do a full setup, click the setup button to the extension is provisioned in under a minute, which is pretty insane. There's no fooling around with FQDNs and all that stuff. It's super easy to use, easy call flow management. And if you know how to use network on the Ubiquiti side of things, you'll pretty much know how to use this. Normally, PBXs are quite complex. With this, it's extremely straightforward. Ubiquiti's also just introduced their new Talk Relay, which can be used with their cloud hosting and their new G3 phones that allows you to take that phone and connect it to a third-party PBX platform, something like 3CX if you wish. So I know what you guys are also going to ask here. It's, do we have support for the soft phones in Australia? And the answer to that, unfortunately, currently is no. We are expecting that a little bit later this year. We're actually expecting it. We've been promised towards the end of Q1. I'm hopeful that's the case, but we understand the soft phone is very important, so we're really pushing to get this to you guys. On the Connect side of things, so Connect is obviously meant for the digital signage solutions. Many customers have existing digital signage in place, and they're looking forward to display content. Traditional signage options can be extremely costly. They can be hard to power, and it can be quite tedious to try and work with. Ubiquiti has the DisplayCast and DisplayCast Pro, which are awesome little devices for easy power management. You just give them PoE, and they can stream video, show web content, YouTube videos, and a whole bunch more stuff. You can also have the Connect Display, which is a PoE-powered monitor with Android app support as well. So if you want to load third-party apps onto that, so let's say, for example, visitor management or something, you can do that. And then the next one here is Drive. Drive is relatively new. It's Ubiquiti's solution for NAS or network attached storage. Many customers are actually now looking for a solution to move out of the cloud. It's quite funny how that works due to the cost. And Ubiquiti's NAS offering or drive solution for this is exceptional. It's an excellent way to do it. It easily allows you to set up users, assign drive allocations, manage shared links, and do a whole bunch more stuff here as well. It is very, very powerful. And again, it's focused on the needs of a business. It's not going to support stuff like Plex and other third-party apps on it. It's meant to work in a business environment. One thing to just quickly note before I move on is I don't know if you've even noticed, but I went through all the different interfaces. Basically, I clicked on Drive, Connect, etc., and you'll see that the experience across them is very similar. It makes it super easy for admins to jump across the different platforms. You don't need a specialized skill set to be able to do it. The big thing that ties all of this together is Ubiquiti's UID. You unlock the real power of Ubiquiti once you start to use UID. So the features here are quite broad, so I'll keep it relatively short. However, it's an identity management platform meant for IT people to use. From the user side, it's an extremely simplified way of accessing the resources in IT. So it's one-click everything. Basically, you install the app on your phone or your PC, you just tap the button and you get what you want. So stuff like VPN access, Wi-Fi access, opening doors, accessing cameras, file access, and a whole bunch more is all possible through this. You don't need to know the Wi-Fi SSID. You don't need to know the VPN credentials. You just tap the button and it's done. From an IT manager's perspective, it's super intuitive. And from the user's perspective as well, means the onboarding process is quick. A very important thing here as well is that the directory integration is now supported for stuff like Entra ID. So if you want to sync users across from Entra into the Ubiquiti device, you can do that. And it's synchronized, so it keeps track of where the users are created, and it's capable of syncing users as they get paused, etc. as well. It can even do user group mapping as well. So this is the free version that's currently embedded onto the UniFi Cloud Console. It runs on the Cloud Gateway, and essentially it's for a single site usage. You do get an enterprise version as well, but that's kind of out of scope for this webinar. I do encourage you guys to try this. It is extremely powerful. In terms of choosing the right hardware, so I'm not going to spend too much time going through each spec here. I'll just point out some of the stuff you need to look at. So the choice pretty much comes down to what your customer wants. So all of these are managed through the same site manager we've seen. It's important when you're picking the devices here that you decide between something that is a full stack solution or partial stack. A simple way to see it on screen here is you can see the icons where it says runs all applications or just says runs UniFi network. Some of the devices are more capable than others in terms of doing protect and access, etc., etc. So just be sure when you're selling this to your customer that you list the capabilities. Personal preference would be, even at a cost-effective side of the market, to go for something that includes all of the applications, because if the customer wants to upgrade down the line, you can just go, hey, I already have something in place for that. I don't need to put down a whole new NVR, which is really valuable to that customer in the long run. Price difference generally is marginal. I'll just do a quick special mention here on the EFG, so the Ubiquiti Enterprise Fortress Gateway. It really is incredible, and it aimed to be a full next-generation firewall. It includes stuff like SSL and TLS inspection. It's got 25 gig WAN support, 12.5 gig with IPS and IDS turned on. It supports shadow mode for gateway level redundancy. And it's meant to be at the edge. It's meant to be the device that connects to the internet. You don't have to have a third-party firewall in front of it. It is capable of being the full security suite. It is extremely powerful. And in terms of value for money, it's insane. We've done price comparisons, and it is extremely, extremely well priced. And call out here as well is that the enterprise devices do require deal registration, stuff like the EFG, the campus switches, the ENVR, etc. They require deal registration in order to help partners like yourselves protect their margins. So we'll expand on that a little bit later on as well. In terms of the hardware for the NVRs, so again, a few options, depends mainly on the number of cameras and your storage requirements. The ENVR is the largest and biggest one here. It also requires deal registration, like I said, but you can do up to 210 HD cameras, or up to 74K cameras, which is pretty ridiculous. Lots of drives, so you can back all that footage up, etc. as well. And again, it's managed through the site manager, all on a single pane of glass as well. A big thing to note here as well is that this can do access control as well. It's not just for the protect side, or it's not just for surveillance. And again, all license free. You don't have to purchase a license to run this. So full stack versus partial stack. We've said before, we want people to use the entire Ubiquiti suite, everything through a single pane of glass, and the Ubiquiti Cloud Gateways is the best way to do that. If you want to do only the network NVR portion, or only the network portion, or only a specific portion, you can do that as well. Picking the best solution depends on you and the customer, but again, the best experience is the one that gives you the most expansion capabilities, and that is definitely the full stack hardware. And then I've just got a very quick slide here on the overview of the different capabilities of these devices. If you want to snap a screenshot from here, you're probably welcome to do that. It just gives you a quick overview. You're also able to view all of these on the Ubiquiti website with all the different resources listed. I'm going to show you the resources that you can use to get to this as well. So it'll tell you the device capabilities, client devices, how many UniFi devices you can manage, etc. And lastly, just a quick last slide here. In terms of the Ubiquiti's enterprise solutions, so many of you have been asking for these features for a long time, and Ubiquiti has listened. So the new campus and enterprise ranges are focused on high availability. So you would have, like noted already in all of the previous slides that I've done, there's a big emphasis on providing extra capabilities around failover. So firstly, the big one here is shadow mode. So it's a big one where you have the ability for your gateway to have redundancy. So if one of the gateways fails, it can automatically fail over to the next. That's basically a passive spare for gateway failover scenarios. The next one that people have been asking for is multi-WAN support. So WAN aggregation. This is something so new that I don't know if it's even generally available yet, but you do now have additional masquerading capabilities, so you can set up multiple WANs. I'm talking about 2+ WANs. So this is still new in firmware. It might not be available for a little while, so please do check out for that, but it's a big thing people have been asking for. Multi-chassis lag and stacking, so switch stacking has been a big request, and Ubiquiti does now support that as well. They've just launched the enterprise campus switches that can do this, and they are planning to introduce a few more later this year as well. The ANVR, for example, you can expand on these ultra high-speed connectivity, super large scale, and then of course lastly there's the enterprise E7 switches, or sorry, not switches, access points that even provide link level redundancy and the capability to do thousands of client devices. So huge list of new enterprise devices, and again, all of these are deal registered, so they are margin protected as well. That's pretty much it from my side in terms of the different Ubiquiti devices that are on there. Just a quick slide to show all the different Ubiquiti resources. So this is an extremely valuable slide. We will share this out to you guys afterwards as well. If you require a copy of this, please feel free to reach out to me. You can also reach out to ui-support@leadersystems.com.au, or you can reach out to myself directly. Most of you have my contact, but I will be in touch afterwards as well. Some of the resources on here is stuff like how to get to Ubiquiti Site Manager. A big one that is often kind of overlooked is the Ubiquiti Portal app. Ubiquiti has a AI model that is trained on Ubiquiti equipment, and it's typically our first port of call for asking questions, tech questions, product questions, etc. And that's also part of the Ubiquiti Portal app. Of course, you can use the Ubiquiti calculator as well to calculate how much resources you have available on your different cloud gateways. You can even do stuff like estimate your Ubiquiti access point client capabilities and seeing the wireless signal, predicted coverage and throughput. The big one that a lot of people ask us for is the ability to see the different product specifications. TechSpecs.ui.com is your best friend for that. We do encourage you guys to reach out and connect to the Ubiquiti community as well. They have a massive community online, tens of thousands of users at this stage, I believe. Very active. They do post comments, questions, etc. on there. If you're looking for a specific weird scenario, it's probably been asked before. Please do feel free to check that out. Ubiquiti has their help center for guides on how to do stuff. They have a very active YouTube channel as well. From Leader's side, we do also have a very active YouTube channel where you can see different setup guides, etc. You can always download the latest firmware from Ubiquiti on downloads.yo.com. They have a newsletter if you are not subscribed to that already. And then, of course, the broad range of applications that are available. I would say the Ubiquiti Portal app and Wi-Fi Man as a bare minimum. But that's the excellent resources that Ubiquiti have available. With that, I will quickly flick over to the Q&A. So if you have questions, now is the time to work through it or post it on the chat. Please feel free to ask anything there. I'm seeing a whole bunch of questions. You guys have been very active. So if Jamie or Thomas can maybe highlight some of the questions you still need answering. Maybe one of the things that we can mention at this stage as well is if you do need pre-sale support from Leader's side, as well as just technical support, we do have that capability. We can help you to design solutions, we can help you to design sites, and we can work with you in conjunction with your customer to help you get stuff done. So from Leader's side, we're very happy to support that. Let me just see if there's any questions on here.
Hey, Alex, this is Jamie. Thanks for doing the webinar. That was really great.
Awesome. Thanks,
I always appreciate your expertise and your inflection and tone as a native to another part of the world. And yeah, we've done our best to address most of the questions here. There's a couple more that kind of deal with like integrations on like Microsoft, two-factor authentication for Wi-Fi. And I encourage everybody to also take a look at the UniFi identity software, which really takes out all of the hassle. It does integrate with existing databases, LDAP, Active Directory. So if there's something that you're looking for that you can't get with our identity software, definitely relay that to either us or to Alex, and we will feed it into our development team. They're very active. For those of you guys that subscribe to the releases section, are in the early access program, you'll see that every single day we're literally launching new software updates. Yeah, so I think just about everything else has gotten answered. Alex, we've kind of tag teamed these between me and Thomas here, but yes, I think we're gonna have some other webinars too coming up. So if you guys have other questions that we can address, there's been some other good feedback from some guys about like firewall, SIEM, log support. So all this information we're logging, stuff on like the region side as far as product availability. Definitely our team is clued in, and our partners as well hear the signal, and we're working hard there.
Awesome. Thank you, Jamie. Perfect. So for the guys that still have questions, I've just posted through the email address. If you guys want to reach out to us, feel free to have a chat either for pre-sale support, post-sale support. Please feel free to reach out. Also just posted a feedback survey in the chat as well. If you guys wouldn't mind completing that for us, it'd be really awesome to know how we can proceed with these trainings going forward. Jamie's actually got a whole bunch of them lined up for the rest of this month, so we're about to send out all the EDMs on those. Please feel free to join those as well. We're going to have one every Thursday for the rest of this month, pretty much. So we'll be discussing a whole bunch of new stuff, as well as the cool ways Ubiquiti have innovated in terms of the different product segments. But that's it from my side. I think, just again, if you guys can please complete that feedback survey, that would be really highly appreciated. Thank you for your time, Jamie, Thomas, everyone. I really appreciate it.